What do you think of fortune tellers? Are they scam artists? Shysters? Is it just meaningless fun? Or are they communing with some dark power? The story of King Saul and the witch of Endor in 1 Samuel 28 makes it a bit difficult to hold an overly simplistic view that they're all scam artists or that they're harmless. Clearly, the Bible doesn't afford us the opportunity to make such oversimplifications. The woman in the story is described as a medium. We're told they came to the woman at night, and he referring to Saul, said, "Consult a spirit for me and bring up for me the one whom I name to you." Long story short, somehow she's able to draw Samuel's spirit up from some intermediate state, which begs the question, what gave her the power to do so? More importantly, how would such a power have any influence over Samuel after he's dead? And to be honest, we're not really told. In the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the Old Testament, the word for consulting a spirit or divination in this story comes from the same root of a word we find in Acts 16. There we learn of another medium or fortune teller. Luke tells us, as we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a slave girl who had a spirit of divination and brought her owners much gain by fortune telling. As I said, it's the same root as the word found in 1 Samuel 28. It's also the root word for python, like the snake. It's kind of a creepy thought, isn't it? The suggestion in the wording is of some kind of snake divinity behind both. In John Stott's commentary on Acts, he suggests the reference is to the snake of classical mythology, which guarded the temple of Apollo and the Delphic oracle at Mount Parnassus. Apollo was thought to be embodied in the snake and to inspire pythonesses, or female devotees, with clairvoyance. Clearly, this snake had some power because the young girl's abilities to tell fortunes yielded a sizable profit. Not just for one person. She was so valuable that her ownership required multiple investors. Now, common sense tells us that no one could be so profitable if they weren't in some way effective, if the fortunes told weren't in some way rooted with the lived experience of her clients. You can also imagine that her power, and abilities would have served as a significant witness to the god Apollo in the region. The worship of Apollo would have had strong legitimacy given the evident power with which he had endowed this girl. But wait a second, isn't the god Apollo just a myth, a false and fabricated idol? I wonder if Paul didn't have this very situation in mind when writing 1 Corinthians, just a few years later, stating, "Do I mean that the food sacrificed to an idol is anything? Or that an idol is anything? No. But the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God." The source behind this woman's power wasn't the god Apollo, it was demonic. If you remember in the Gospels, the demonic have a special insight and awareness into Christ's divinity. That is, they knew better than anyone that Jesus was God incarnate. Likewise, here in Acts, the demonic have special insight into the identity of God's people. And Luke claims she followed Paul and us, crying out, "These men are servants of the Most High God, who proclaim to you the way of salvation." She kept doing this for many days, but Paul, very much annoyed, turned and said to the Spirit, "I order you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." It came out of her that very hour. It's hard to say what would compel a demon to engage in such evangelism. Now, it's plausible that by her demonic persistence, she was intentionally frightening away those with whom Paul was intending to share the gospel. Now, perhaps the demon was attempting to goad Paul into an action that would precipitate larger conflict in this society. Or maybe the demonic was, despite itself, simply drawn to the light. Whatever the reason, the takeaway for us is the reminder that our physical world is not all there is. There are spiritual forces in play, and on occasion, innocent people held captive by them. They can be dark, even vicious and oppressive. and particularly when they join forces and leverage our sinful desires, as we'll see next time. As Paul shows, the way we combat these forces is not by our own power, but through our reliance on Jesus Christ. Paul calls on the name of Jesus Christ, and the demon is sent packing. And may we be more aware this week of the spiritual battlefield in which we find ourselves, the significant part we've been called to play, and the power that is ours in and through Jesus Christ. God bless.